Everyone, I'm Emma from Braze. I'm one of the account executives in the enterprise team. If you haven't heard of Braze before, we're a real-time customer engagement platform. What that means, we power communication between brands and the customers that they love on channels which resonate. Even if you haven't heard of Braze, you will have interacted with us on a daily basis, whether that be ordering a Deliveroo, going to a Costa Coffee and using their loyalty scanner, or ordering a flight from Skyscanner. Most recently, Braze has been in the press for acquiring OfferFit, so that's next generation AI decisioning. If anyone is interested in hearing anything about that, I will be about all of today. And joining me, I've got Harry and Salin from our BDR team, so they're around all day and they would love to chat with you all. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you. Great. So session number 1, I'm going to introduce you to Shama and Emma. Emma, if you'd like to turn your camera and your mic off now, fabulous. I'm going to introduce you to Shama and Emma. And I'll let Emma introduce you to Shama as well, because I think that's probably the best idea, and let Emma introduce herself. So Shama, if you'd like to put your mic and your camera on as well. So leading one of the most iconic loyalty programs in the world must be a whole lot of fun. So let's hear more about it. I'll leave you guys to it, and I'll be around in the next sort of half an hour.
Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're all enjoying a bit of release from the heat if you're in the UK. I certainly am. Really delighted to be here. My name's Emma Collins. I have been in the loyalty industry for the last 2.5 years. I ran the Poundland loyalty program. And I'm just about to start some consultancy, but most importantly, I'm here very excited to introduce Shama Wilson, who, as Heidi said, runs the most iconic loyalty program, and we're so privileged to have you here, especially Shama in Clubcard's 30 years. What an exciting place to be for you, if not a little bit daunting probably at times. But welcome.
Thank you so much. No, pleasure to be here. What a talk up. Thank you. Should I do a quick intro just so?
Yes.
So,
please,
hello everyone.
do.
Absolutely great to be here. So thank you for having me, Heidi and team. So I look after. So I'm Group Membership and Loyalty Director at Tesco. So responsible for all things Clubcard. And I've been doing the role for a while now, but about a year or so. But been in the team in various roles for several years, but my background is in Tesco for 15 years. It's one of those places that says a lot about it, where you join and it's hard to leave because the people are brilliant and the work we do is fab. So very fortunate to have this opportunity. But started in a buying background in commercial. I know we'll come on to some of that a bit later, but moved around the business in various roles. And now I have what I genuinely believe is the most exciting job in the business. I don't just say that, but looking after Clubcard.
Wow, yeah, loyalty is, I'm very passionate about loyalty, and certainly this community, I think it is one of the best in the world, and I've certainly been picked up by this community over the last few months, and I think well done to Heidi and Costas for putting this together and winning you as a speaker today. So really great. So we're going to jump in and start with strategy. Obviously, we're 30 years. How has Tesco's approach to loyalty evolved over those years? I mean, there's so many, we can all remember, getting our first Clubcard in the post, and it's evolved and grown so much over those years. How has it evolved? And how have you used insight over those years and the evolution of technology and platforms to drive those changes and keep it fresh?
Yeah, well, look. So firstly, I can't take credit for the 30 years history in this business, but so yeah, Clubcard, for those that don't know, launched back in 1995. So we are celebrating our 30 years this year. We've even got a PR event in a Soho factory on Friday. Called Club Card, where Blue will be coming along, and it's all about nostalgia going back to the 1990s, and yeah, picture kind of like posters stuck on the walls and all sorts of great stuff. So yeah, we're in a really kind of monumental year. It gives us a chance to reflect on the journey that Club Card has been on, but also celebrate it and do it in a way where it's meaningful for customers. It's not just about, hey, it's our birthday, but we're offering new and exciting things for our customers and talking about it in a different way we haven't before. So so yes, very exciting time for Clubcard. I guess when we go back to 1995, it was a real pioneer launching Clubcard. There was nothing really like it in the retail market, so it was very differentiated. We've gone through a lot of the older yeah, press releases, etc., that have gone out, notes to handwritten letters that went out to all colleagues, etc., at the time, and it's all centered around saying a big thank you, really, to our customers, just a thank you for choosing Tesco. And unsurprisingly, as we've evolved over those 30 years, that remains at the core of it. It's got to be number one about recognizing our customers, and for that to feel like a genuine recognition. What has had to evolve is what that means for customers and their expectations of what recognition looks like in a world where loyalty and club loyalty schemes have evolved tremendously since we started. It was a very differentiated view, and now actually to maintain any sort of clear
Everyone's got
water,
one.
exactly. So I think it's 1 in 4. I think it's some fact where it's like, I think it's about 70% of the UK have at least 1 in 4 of the main retailers loyalty schemes. So when you think about that, that's a very different place to where we were when we launched originally. So how we've had to evolve and what are the insights? I think really interesting question. What we do, so obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but we are about 24 million active households actively engaging with us every 6 weeks. The UK household population is about 27 million, so we're pretty much at saturation, what we keep thinking, but it does continue to grow. But that means that we are representative of the nation. So really it is about representing and understanding the customer needs of the nation, and really being able to be on the forefront of what's on their minds, what's the current situation, and what do we anticipate their future needs to look like, and how do we evolve to stay on top of that. So a good example being, when we launched the scheme, it was obviously around these moments where you get your paper statement through the door 4 times a year, and it was the post that everyone loved. As we move forward, and this will obviously come through more and more, but the pros and cons of having 30 years legacy, you have 30 years legacy systems, to move into a digital first environment when you've got, so anyone that I'm sure I think anyone in this world who's working in an environment where they've got a legacy scheme is all about how do we migrate customers onto more of a digital first scheme, and that is something that we've had to do, anticipate those customer needs, but do it in a way that's an appropriate nudge, not a push, because there are some customers where actually it's been more of a sensitive journey, and there'll always be paper that some customers will want and need. But also another point that I was reflecting on in terms of how we've evolved, a big one was around this need for immediacy, because with those kind of 4 moments, we're asking customers to wait to get access to those benefits. And actually in a world where
you want it now.
Exactly. There's now culture that actually there's a lack of, well,
we have very little patience.
Exactly. So I think that was one of the ideas that came about when we looked at member pricing. That was kind of part of the insight there, that customers actually want something, an immediate reason to scan. Give me a reason to scan for every single interaction. And globally, obviously, we're looking at that. So I guess that's an example of where we keep on top of what are the kind of global trends, and I mean customer trends, not just loyalty trends, around things like immediacy now, and how will loyalty need to pivot to address those. as much as possible. So yeah, immediacy being kind of one example, physical, digital is another.
Amazing. And there's been a lot, we talk a lot, certainly in the loyalty industry, about personalization. It is the buzzword at the moment, isn't it? And how do you build those meaningful relationships, obviously with personalization? How do you do that at scale? You mentioned 24 million households. How do you do that at scale whilst sort of really keeping that emotional connection?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think there are multiple layers of what a good loyalty scheme needs to do, right? You have to have good value. There's got to be a reason for using the loyalty scheme. If the value isn't there, there's no point in even trying. So there's kind of a minimum table stakes now where make sure it's really valuable to me. Then making sure it's personalized, that's got to be again, it's becoming an expectation, definitely for our customers who are like, I've been with you for however many years, show me you know me, give me things that are relevant to me. And that's expanding beyond just showing me the product offers are relevant to me. It needs to be timely, it needs to be on my terms. So that this is as you say, it's a huge buzzword, and for us, personalization is goes beyond even just loyalty. It's how you interact with Tesco, full stop. How do we make your experience end to end? Obviously powered by our Clubcard data, but how do we understand you one to one and make sure we're offering you the relevant offers, products, solutions through the channels that you like to interact with us in the right way. Now, and how we do that, I mean, there's a huge amount going on at the moment. Obviously I can only share so much, but obviously the capabilities that we invest in, how do we ensure that we're unlocking the right capabilities for the future that will enable us to do that in a way that's at scale, to your point, and at speed. So we want it to be automated and at scale. So to do that, it's building out the right systems and approaches to do that. And your question around the emotional connection, I mean, if we do that right, that should deliver a level of emotional connection. But that's where there are other aspects of our scheme. So we have our reward partner scheme, for example, which is a really powerful one for our customers. We hear these really incredible stories of what it enables them to unlock these experiences that, I managed to go on holiday with my family that I wouldn't have been able to afford on my own, and we save up our loyalty points for whether it might be even spending in store for Christmas, and I could have a Christmas that I couldn't experience otherwise. So it's understanding which of those parts of the scheme that unlock that emotional connection to the next level, which brings brand warmth and stickiness, and also they're the things I think that will differentiate versus others. So how do we continue to grow them?
And you mentioned it, as you started, as we started the conversation about nostalgia and obviously celebrating the 30 years, but I'm so passionate about nostalgia and kind of tapping into perhaps simpler times, and I think Tesco's have a real opportunity with that this year, but carrying on that nostalgic feeling, but layering it with the technology to make that emotional connection.
Exactly.
It's really great.
Exactly.
So if we move on to I guess transformation and leadership, you touched on it a little bit about the enormity of a transformation program, and sort of keeping on top of the evolving nature of loyalty. It is challenging. So share with us, if you can, a few of the hurdles that you've jumped, and how have you navigated them?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question, and I think that I would say some of the things that I think are the hurdles are around culturally making where we are now as a scheme is to the point that I raised before, is when we are moving forward with new innovative solutions, others are quick to follow. And that's complementary, which is fantastic. But how do you continue to do that at pace? How do you continue to create some difference in a very crowded market, and how do we make sure that personalization is next level? Actually, our value is still market leading, but how do we continue to make sure customers feel that? So I think that's probably one of our biggest hurdles, to make big, bold decisions and moves that will leapfrog the market with the limited data set to support. So actually, when we launched member pricing, it was quite a big move for us to do. And obviously, to be the first, you then need to be, well, not the first by any means, but in the retail UK market. In doing so, you kind of set the tone for others, and then there's a bit more confidence to follow, because you kind of think, well, if it's working for them, it's probably going to work. So actually, I think a big hurdle is having the confidence to make decisions and take a leap of faith and test and learn new things and newness when you might not necessarily know how they're going to work. And
well,
I think
it's paid off.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't always. I mean, that's the thing. We've also got to be prepared to fail, right? There's obviously we need to be testing and learning in an environment where we're happy to fail. So I think creating that, it was kind of on one of my thoughts later on, actually, but I think creating that environment where you've got a test and learn culture, where we're constantly looking at what's going to resonate, what doesn't, and listening to customers. I looked at this question, I thought of it in a couple of ways. I guess one, I just thought, I don't know if it's helpful, but from a personal point of view, my career history has been quite different from others in loyalty, and I imagine versus quite a lot of those on this call today. I'm not a loyalty expert by nature, so it can make me feel like a bit of a fraud, but my team very much are. So I've done several years in loyalty, and it's absolutely a passion of mine, but I guess I'm traditionally a bit more of a general manager in my experience. And so a big hurdle for me is also just making sure that I've got the right expertise around me personally to fill in those gaps, those knowledge gaps, in a world that is constantly evolving, trusting my team, which is critical anyway, and accepting you can absolutely not know it all. You've got to have the right people around you, and setting the right culture where they do feel hopefully empowered to fail fast and learn and come up with the solutions themselves. Go on, sorry, Emma.
Shama, I'm seeing lots of claps there. I think
that's
everybody's like, oh, this sounds amazing. I want to be part of Shama's team. That's so lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's critical. And look, I came back from maternity leave in October. I've got 2 little kids, and it's a big job, and I'm trying to do it part time. So look, there's a lot when you think about from a personal point of view that I'm relying on my team being brilliant, and they will, of course, and I also accept that I'm not going to be brilliant at all times. So there are times when I might not have had the best sleep, or I'm coming back and there's quite a lot of challenge, and there's a lot of focus on loyalty right now, which is fantastic, but it does also mean it can take up a lot of the team's time. So it's how do you
it means the light's firmly on you, doesn't it, all the time?
Exactly, yeah, and that's the reality of our jobs, and it's fab because it can open doors, but it also we don't want anything to be slowed down as well. So it's getting that balance right. So quite a few different hurdles there, both from a kind of ways of working point of view and personally in my experience, but also from a loyalty scheme perspective.
Oh, amazing. And on your team, how do you keep the innovation alive? I mean, you've shared a little bit there. How do you keep it alive and but also keep them very focused on the business goals and the target set and the KPIs that you've got to hit? How do you keep that balance in your team?
Yeah, well, actually, we've just been doing a 10-year strategy, and it's mad. How do you predict 10 years? But it's a really helpful exercise to look at what do we think the long-term customer trends are, what do we think the business direction is more broadly. Clubcard is bigger than just Tesco stores. It's it's the common thread across our total ecosystem, whether it's Tesco Mobile, Tesco Bank, etc. How we show up, and how we connect customers, and they expect us to recognize them as individuals, rightly so, in however they interact with Tesco. So that how we innovate is also how the business's direction is taking, and we need to make sure we're on the front foot and enabling Clubcard as that differentiator throughout all those different customer interactions. I think culturally, never resting on your laurels and never being arrogant enough to think we're the biggest. We we admire the competition and look at them and learn from them, taking, I've got all their schemes and I'll constantly be on the front foot to keep an eye out, but also looking more. Loyalty is so much broader than just the UK retail market. We look at obviously the full market, and actually we learn a tremendous amount from different industries, but also from across the globe, and think actually that could be something that's super interesting. I think it's basically about taking the time to lift the head out of the day job, but also when we are creating the 1, 2, 3 year roadmap, that it is aligned to that end state. It's not that the two can't be separate. And then along the way, have the flexibility to, like I described, test and learn, innovate, recognize what we think today might be appropriate could completely change in a year's time. Like obviously COVID was a really good example of something completely coming differently to us all, and we all had to adapt and learn. So constantly staying close to customers, as cliche as it may sound, it's the quickest thing to stop doing, dropping those customer connect listing sessions, but really staying curious and listening to those problems, because I think innovation can sound like a big word, can sound like
it's another buzzword.
But it doesn't. Innovation could just be the smallest of things, but it's just like, are we addressing those frustrations for our customers and bringing in newness that meet their ever-changing needs?
I mean, my observation is that the loyalty program is very much at the heart of Tesco's strategy. And I think, and I can talk from experience, a lot of loyalty programs are kind of bolt-ons and kind of are help to drive those business targets, but they are on the periphery. So how would you, can you give any advice to help people to drive that centrally?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I guess for us, it's 30 years in the making, so it's embedded into the culture. Clubcard is so synonymous with Tesco. It's not a separate scheme. The words are interchangeable in customers' minds, but also in our colleagues' minds. So, we've got over 300,000 colleagues that will be that are the front line interactions with our customers, and they are, we have colleague Clubcard there. It's really integrated into our whole business. To your point, I think advice on how you do that is, I guess there's an element of recognizing the value it can offer, and demonstrating that value. And I don't mean value just in commercial value. I mean in terms of differentiation, strategic value. What does the data enable you to do? Obviously, that's a massive part of the strategy. Actually, what Clubcard has powered the business to do, there's a reason why it is essential to it. It enables us to understand our customers better than anyone else. It enables us to therefore meet their needs, create product ranges, or even how we ensure our stores are operating to the right customer demand. How do we leverage that data and insight? So it's showing the value that the schemes can offer and leveraging that as effectively as possible, but also how it differentiates you in a market, depending on what industry you're working in.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, Shama. That's really helpful. So, I mean, there's only so much you'll be able to share here, but from a future perspective, let's just keep it general.
Yeah.
But, how do you see the shift in customer expectations when it comes to loyalty? And, can you give any glimpse as to how Tesco's are going to adapt to that?
Yeah. So I will be cautious in how much I share. Just I have to be. I've been warned. But I can of course share the expectational shift. I think I alluded to it already, but you've got to get the value right. That's like a fundamental, but it's table stakes now. So it's how do you make sure that value exchange feels right? Customers are increasingly aware of the value of their data, and the fact that it is actually an exchange almost, and being part of a loyalty scheme. Is it worth me parting on this data to give to you? So they're recognizing the value of their data and being upfront about that value exchange, I think, is is really important. Obviously the cybersecurity risks we've seen as well. This is more than just a kind of core club card scheme, but the confidence and the trust in the brand more broadly is going to become increasingly important. I think Tesco comes from a good place there. We've got a good level of trust, but we're also not naive enough to think, again, never resting on your laurels and staying ahead of some of the challenges we've seen others face, which we have nothing but sympathy for as a business. But I think the biggest thing, a couple of other big things. So I've talked a bit about already around the value piece, but that's kind of the minimum expectation. Then the personalization, as I say, I almost think that is becoming table stakes as well. But
it is.
You've got to do it and do it well in the way that customers are like, well, I interact with you constantly. Why don't you know that I don't buy this product, or I don't eat meat?
Why are you sending me shampoo products when I'm bald?
Exactly. You know, that type of really helpful thing that can actually completely erode in 1 second a really valuable customer experience. But I think the bit that is shifting is there's a real shift to experiential value more and more, exclusive value experiences. So again, looking at how brands can be broader part of customers' lives, and doing that in a way that's genuinely meaningful and in a way that feels right for your brand, because it's got to feel authentic as well. So creating those meaningful connections. And then I've already referenced it, but this piece around immediacy, but with immediacy, an element of flexibility as well, like recognizing that customer households are changing, the makeup of average customers' experiences are changing, and what they want and need from a loyalty scheme is going to need to be flexible. And that doesn't necessarily mean personalized communications and offers, etc., but it also might be flexibility in how the value shows up and how they interact. So I think there's also that kind of mindset. And then something that we're all looking at, and I guess as we move forward, is that there is a risk of this kind of direct to customer ongoing world of as we evolve in future. So what's the role that loyalty plays to bring together our total ecosystem and bringing that as a real point of difference and making it just incredibly easy and seamless for our customers to interact? Because
it's that frictionless experience,
and look,
isn't it?
We won't kid ourselves that we don't have friction in our experience today. Like I talk about with the legacy systems and the transition from paper to digital and running those kind of two schemes versus others that can come to the market and launch
that can go straight in with digital, can't they? And they don't have that baggage.
Yes, exactly. So look, I think there are a few things where I think customer expectations are changing, but I think it's really critical for transparency and trust to be at the heart of it, that kind of strong value exchange, but then showing up in a really meaningful way for your customers in a way that that matters to them and is unconditional. So whether it's some aspect of, you know, surprise and delight or whatever it is, but seeing that customer in the moment and giving them a really meaningful experience. And if you can unlock that emotional connection, it's that next level of satisfaction and loyalty. And that's the stuff that you tell your mates about. It's when, even if, you know, you've had a bad experience, your delivery's been cancelled, how do we show up and how do we enable the business to use
and how do you put things right when you've
and recognize actually, you know what, Emma's had a bad experience and she's a really loyal customer of ours, but actually at the moment we don't know that when you're calling up our call centers. And how do we enable our colleagues to be able to delight our customers as much as we can through an app, for example?
Exactly. Oh, so I mean, we could talk for hours, Shama. I think people probably will be quite, I mean, you've touched on it a bit, your career, but I was quite intrigued. I mean, you mentioned, you know, you're not and you know, well, you say you're not an expert, but you've taken time through your tenure at Tesco's in quite a few areas of the business. How important do you think that has been to land you where you are now? Because obviously, you know, it's quite an interesting topic, certainly for me at the moment.
No, look, I joined Tesco in 2009. And it was a very different Tesco back then, and I was in the buying world, and as we've just, and actually bought flowers for the first 5 years, so very different. But actually, when I look back, and I often think, oh, was it all a bit accidental, my kind of career? But when I look back, there is a real common thread in there for me, and I always did roles that I loved. So after buying flowers, I didn't want to go and buy bananas or tin food or anything like that, because it didn't have the creativity side. And so actually I look back, and this kind of blend between a commerciality and creativity, but centered in customer centricity. It has to be with customer first. But that commerciality and creativity, I think, is like, it kind of brings you perfectly into a world.
I feel like it's the perfect marriage. You've
Yeah.
got to have that, commercial acumen in loyalty. You've got to understand where your return is, but that creativity and making people feel special and that emotional connection. And what better place to start than flowers? We all love flowers.
I loved it. It was a fantastic job, and you got to genuinely design all sorts. So whether it was the Christmas tree range that we would be selling to flowers at Mother's Day, and how you design and differentiate. So it was a really fantastic role. But it was just, I think for me, we often look to what's the next job, and job titles, but actually I always say, what are the skills? Right. So if I'm really confident that actually I am good with data and analytics, etc., but I'm also super creative, that's what's led me through my career to do different roles. So so I have done various roles in marketing, or whether it's in brand or local marketing when we open up new stores in that area, both in our business in UK and in our business in Malaysia. And then into the kind of world of loyalty. But that was the sweet spot for me, where it unlocks something which is, there's a really clear accountability, which I love. I don't like ambiguity when it comes to what's my role at the table. I want to have that confidence. I know my kind of what's my role and purpose, but also it's measurable. You can learn quickly from it, but it's also got that creativity and customer centricity. So yeah, I mean, I studied art and science. Gives you a kind of flavor. I actually went on to do medicine in my first year at uni and failed, because I was really I had a very good first year, and B, I was very squeamish, because I never did any work experience. But I was like, I like people and I like science. Surely this will work. But there is still it is still a kind of common thread there over, like, I look back to even growing up, and there was just like really understanding that those are skills that I had, and then finding the right career. And I've been really fortunate.
Finding your place, isn't it?
Yeah, and doing
like
what you
finding
love.
your person. It's finding where you fit and can shine, and you clearly are shining, Shama. I mean,
I'm very fortunate enough to have a team that helps me shine. They do all the hard work, definitely.
But it is about surrounding yourself with the people that are going to lift you up, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. And we'll just, my last question. I know that we've got a few questions that have come in, but my last question is around, well, in your career, what is your proudest moment?
Yeah, I thought about, so can I have two?
Yes.
Because I guess my proudest moments, and it sounds cheesy, but it's when talent in my team get on, and I've had a lot of brilliant people come through the business where you can see them thrive and get on, and that's why I come to work. It's, I do love Clubcard and what I do, but the people in the team are absolutely everything. So they're the moments that I think, oh, great, like I can, I love seeing our team get on. So that's definitely the proudest. But then there was one moment, you always have those one in your career, don't you? And it was actually when we launched our subscription program, Clubcard Plus, and it's not even to do with what we did for customers, because we've launched bigger scale initiatives for customers, but it was a really cross-functional, complex project that had highs and lows, and that proper forming relationship mentality. And we came together in a way, and we worked in a way that the business had never operated before, of hundreds of us working really uniquely, but a core team of about 30, where we even sat together from different functions, engineers sitting down to kind of social media teams and just
Oh,
really
I love it.
understanding. So it was just this kind of real moment of people coming together to achieve a common goal, really clearly defined common goal. And we spent a lot of time off site getting to know each other as individuals. We spent lots of time together, probably too much time together, but it was just one of those moments that when it launched, it was irrelevant of how it performed. It was just when it launched, it just felt like we've done something different. We've worked in a way that's different, and we've really come together in a way that felt very special, and everyone that's was part of it have kind of got this like weird connection that you only have those moments a couple of times in your career when you've been in the trenches together. But yeah, that's probably the other standout for me.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Going through such you spend more time with some of these people than your own family, and when you've got a target and a goal to hit and get it across the line, it's such a special moment for you as leading them, but also as to get them over, and it's a celebratory thing together. No, I definitely I can definitely concur with that one. Right, so there are quite a few questions, Shama.
Sure.
We won't have time for them all, so I'm just going to start at the top.
Sure.
Given the sheer volume of product sets and member pricing, what tools does Tesco plan to use to drive one-to-one personalisation at scale? And to what extent is Tesco using AI to date to drive this?
Yeah, big question.
Big question.
No, but look, it's a good point, because I think what we need to recognise, there'll be parts of the scheme that need to always be a kind of front door to the scheme. We need to have a reason to join for those that aren't actively using it constantly or that aren't actively engaging with our app. We can't be naive. Not everyone thinks about Clubcard as much as we do. So there's always got to be kind of a level of I guess I don't think everything will ever go fully personalized in my experience, in my view, definitely not in the near term. But then how do we leverage what is most relevant is kind of the first stage there. So you filter out a lot of the noise and you're showing relevancy. So yeah, we have various ways that we do that throughout your shopping experience. Obviously, it's easier depending on the channel that you're interacting in. So online, it's easier for us to filter out and kind of what's most preferred for you or what we think you might like. So we have a lot of data science internally that we look at, predictive models, which can help you think about what customers might like, or also where we might want to nudge their behavior into a certain next best alternative, for example. So there's a ton of work I won't do justice there, but then at the same time thinking about what are the one-to-one more personalized offers on top of that kind of broader front door entry point, if you like, to the scheme.
Right, okay, well I'll keep going with these questions. I won't comment. Given the high volume of brands offering loyalty, how does Tesco plan to cut through the noise? And there's the $1 million question.
It is, isn't it? If you've got any answers, let me know.
What's the silver bullet?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think not forgetting, like speaking to our customers and understanding their frustrations and addressing them is critical, because it might not necessarily be about innovation. A lot of it is even just about surfacing what we do and surfacing it better and more brilliantly, and cutting out that friction, because to your point, it is noise. And we have this assumption that everyone understands the value of our scheme and the way that you can access it today.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in innovation doesn't need to be lots of new things.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think the way that we cut through a lot of the noise is relevancy, by showing you that we have the most relevant stuff. We're talking to you about what we believe is the most relevant for you based on your wants and needs. So one of the ways to do this that I would say is real deep understanding of your customers. So whether that's the way that you segment your customers or the way that you kind of look at the data, because if we don't have that in-depth, it's got to start with an in-depth customer understanding at a one-to-one level is the ambition, to be able to then cut through and interact with customers in a way that's meaningful for them.
Yeah, amazing. Can you give us an example of a strategy that did fail?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Some of them might still come out. I'm trying to think what I could share that's not necessarily a I've got loads that are in flight, but they're not working as well. But I'm like, do I want to share that as well?
I can move on. Shall I move on?
Move on, let me come back.
Yes,
but I think what
okay.
I would say is there's some stuff right now. We have lots of different tests in flight, and there are some that aren't working, and we're optimizing on the fly. But what I think we need to get really confident with is when do we call it quits?
When do you
and
pull the
just,
chute?
exactly. Yeah. So
Agree.
sorry, I should have really. I'll have a think about whether there's one more.
Well, no, you weren't ready for these ones.
No, they're good questions.
Can you share about how the Club Card challenges use AI? I mean, there's lots of questions about AI to create tailored customer experiences.
Yeah, so Club Card Challenges has been really exciting for us. We have partnered with ELA on it. So this is an example, and actually it's one I'm sure lots of companies debate over. When do you buy, build, partner from a tech point of view? What does that look like in your kind of tech strategy, if you like? And so in this instance, we've worked really closely with Eagle AI, and there's a lot of really smart personalization that goes into play here. So it's very much personalized on a one-to-one basis on the products that you buy, but also the spend thresholds, the reward mechanics, etc. is all personalized down to the individual, which is probably why it's had the success and the level of engagement we see.
It won an award, didn't it, in May?
Yes, it's now won too, actually. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Final question. How does Tesco gather and incorporate customer feedback into the development of new loyalty initiatives like the Club Card Challenges? That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think in so many ways is what I would say. But when we launch a new initiative like this, we'll always have really clear, and we're trying to do this like as early on as possible, really clear measurement plan in place, including both quantitative and qualitative. So it can't just be about the commercials, because actually what we might find is commercially it might not be bang on, but customers might love it. There could be a nuance in there. So that's that importance of this kind of iterative test and learn approach. So we do a lot of customer listening, but we'll make sure we're defining our audiences in a way that it allows us to properly understand their behavior, because obviously you can gather that there's two sides of it, of what customers tell you, what they think, but also what they actually do, because the two don't always marry up. But yeah, and then measuring sentiment. So there's kind of a broader, we need to measure the commercial return, but we also need to look at sentiment, which is a harder one to track, I won't lie. So I think constantly getting that kind of control, but also speaking to our customers, just having listening groups. We had lots of just listening groups with different customer groups for Club Card Challenges when they launch, where we'll just encourage our teams to go along and listen firsthand as much as possible, because there's nothing beats hearing it directly from a customer.
Oh, well, yeah, that's listening to our customers is absolutely key, isn't it? Oh, and here's Heidi. Shama, thank you so much. That was just a joy and so insightful. And I think we've all on here learned so much. And huge congratulations on 30 years. All the awards, all the love for this year is so deserving. So huge thank you for taking the time.
No, thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Emma, for expertly facilitating that. I wouldn't have been able to navigate those questions and everything popping up. So
well, thank you to Emma as well for your time. You should feel proud of your history and what you've achieved in the last 2 years too. Despite the end result,
it's been a tough few months, let me tell you.
Yeah, 100%. So you've done
a brilliant. Still smiling, Emma.
Absolutely.
Well, I have to thank this community. It's picked me up when I have been down, and hopefully things will pick back up again for me. So
absolutely. We're all looking after you, Emma. So we're keeping an eye out. So thank you, Shama, so much, and thank you to you, Emma, and thank you to our audience for asking such great questions. I know, Shama, you couldn't share everything, but you've shared enough, I think, and people are going to got some great takeaways from that session. So really appreciate your time, and I'm hoping that we'll still see you in London in February,
Yes.
and potentially in Amsterdam, where Tesco's may pick up yet another award at the Elevation. So we'll talk about that at another time. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can both now turn your camera and mics off, because we're going to be moving into our networking session. And I'm just going to give everybody a bit of a tour around what that means. So I'm just going to share my screen. So if you could just bear with me 1 second. Obviously, please stay for the networking. That lasts half an hour. And then after that, we're going straight into Johannes, the head of loyalty at DM, who's going to be giving us his insight into how they are trying to understand every single one of their customers. And they've got 16 or 19 million members in their loyalty program. And then we're moving into a Costa Coffee fireside chat. So I'm just going to give you some ideas on the networking session now, what that means, if you could just bear with me. So I'm going to change the view, and this is what the view of the screen will look like. So it won't be me talking, it will be this, and in this view there you can see some chairs and some tables and some sofas. At the top here we have 2 floors. We had 90 of you registered, and I think about 40 of you are actually here, so we may not need 2 floors, but the system will randomly allocate you to a table, whether it's on floor 1 or floor 2. Over on the right hand side, this little circle here, if you click there, that will tell you where you are, on what table you're at. And you can edit your profile here to let everybody know who you are. So just click on that at the top there, and you can put your name and your job title and your company so people can find you. If you want to move floors, you just click on where it says floor, and you can go to floor 1 or floor 2. And over here is actually your face and your profile. So if you hover over that, you can see yourself or you can see others. And it also tells you where you are and who you're going to be, who you're sharing a table or a sofa with. To be able to do this, you need to turn your mics on at the bottom here and your cameras on. So at the bottom where it says turn camera and mic on, you need to be able to do that for people to see you. And you'll all pop up on a screen. You can see my face at the top there, and then you'll all pop up in squares at the top, depending on the table that you're at. There's no ambassadors at all for this part, where you're all adults, but what I am going to give you is an idea of what to talk about. So it lasts about 30 minutes. But basically, whatever table you're at, introduce yourselves, your name, your company, your job role, years of experience, whatever you like. Ask each other questions. You know, what's your biggest challenge right now? Tell each other stories, things that went wrong, that went right, or use the discussion point below, which is taken from the last session with Shama and Emma talking about their club card. So how do you keep a legacy loyalty program relevant in a fast changing world? So I'm going to stop sharing now, but I'm going to leave this to you to get to know each other. I'm going to change the view. If there's only 2 people on your table or on your sofa, feel free to move to another table. And the way you can do that is by double clicking on that table. Okay, it's really simple to move. You just double click on the table. If you're struggling, come and find me. I'll be on a table somewhere. Come and find me and I'll help you. Don't feel like you can't move from table to table. Everybody wants to network, and you would normally do that if you were live. So if you feel like you want to move from that table because you want to go and speak to somebody else, the other people won't feel hurt. It is the nature of networking if you want to go and speak to someone else. So move floors, move tables, or just stay where you are and really enjoy the conversation. And in about 30 minutes time, I will announce your 5 or 4 minute time and let you know that we're going to be back into the presentation mode where Johannes will be talking about DM. So really looking forward to this part. I will now change the view. Come and find me if you've got any problems. So I'm going to change the view to the floor mode now, and you will automatically be allocated to a table. I hope that's all clear. Can I have some thumbs up, please, if that's clear, or should we just go ahead? Thank you. Excellent. So I'm changing the view and we're going back to the floor now. Enjoy your networking, and I'll see you in about half an hour.